Hey, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Tuesday, January 15, 2019. Today's the 90th birthday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Also, it is fitting today the U.S. House decided to condemn the racist, white supremacist comments of Congressman Steve King. The vote was 424 to 1. We'll explain to you the one person who did not vote and what that means. It's about time y'all decided to call out the bigot. But that's not the worst thing that has happened to Steve King. Last night, Republicans stripped him of all of his committee assignments. So pretty much, he's walking around Congress with nothing to do. King again tried to explain himself. Yeah, it was pretty much another parody. Also, NBC News tells its reporters, anchors, and contributors not to call Steve King's comments racist. The backlash causes them to alter their stance. What the hell were they thinking? Also, I talked with New York Congressman Gregory Meeks about what more should be done to punish Steve King. And we also talked to him about the impact of the government shutdown. Black Republicans also released a letter calling out Republicans, saying it's time for them to step up when it comes to Steve King in their midst. We'll talk to one of them on the show as well. Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General appeared before the Senate today. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker pinned him down on the issue of criminal justice. We will show you that conversation, and also most of the confirmation hearing centered on protecting Robert Mueller. But we are interested in voting rights and civil rights. We'll have Maisha Brayton of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law tell us why the Senate should not confirm Barr as the next Attorney General. Also, folks, news out of Chicago regarding the sentencing for a convicted murderer of the cop who killed Chicago police officer, former cop Jason Van Dyke, who killed Laquan McDonald. Why is the prosecutor trying to keep his sentence somewhat short? It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, go to my iPad, please. Thank you. I want that off the top. This is the photo of Bernice King. This is on her Twitter feed today. Photo of her and her father, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He today would have been his 90th birthday. And so she shared this photo as well. As you can see, what she said is, remembering you on your 90th birthday and always, Daddy, I missed you. Hashtag MOK, hashtag MLK90. And of course, the nation will celebrate Dr. King's birthday for a federal holiday taking place on this coming Monday. Now, of course, it also was fitting on the 90th birthday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that the United States House would take action against a bigot, a racist in their midst. That's right. Late this afternoon, the House of Representatives voted 424 to 1 to condemn Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King for making racist comments in an interview with the New York Times last week. It was called a resolution of disapproval, and it included a denunciation of the white supremacist and white nationalist movements. Now, it passed 424 to 1. The one person voting against is Congressman Bobby Rush. He voted no because he felt it should have included censure. This follows last night, of course, where Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader in the House, had a meeting with Steve King, and where he later said that the House Steering Committee, the Republican Steering Committee, voted unanimously to strip Steve King of all of his committee assignments, seriously reducing his power and his ability to raise money for his reelection, but also it impacts his home district. Now, Congressman King, longtime racist and xenophobe, whose comments about white supremacy, white nationalism, and Western civilization finally caught up with him. This is a guy who has been saying these things for a long time, but all of a sudden now Republicans are taking action. Quite hilarious, though, to see Steve King speaking on the House floor before the vote to condemn him.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Georgia for yielding me time to address this issue. I understand and recognize the gravity of this issue that's before us. I can hear it in the voice of the gentleman from Georgia. I can hear it from Mr. Clyburn. I can hear it from Mr. Nadler. And I know all of you. And I think I know all of you well. I thought you all knew me well. But I began to read this resolution, Madam Speaker, and I started with the first whereas. And I'm going to read it as it's here. Whereas on January 10th, 2019, Representative Steve King was quoted as asking, quote, white nationalists, white supremacists, Western civilization, there's a dash in there, a pause. How did that language become offensive, close quote. I understand how you interpreted my words when you read them this way. There is no tape for this interview that I did. It was 56 minutes long. There are some notes on the other end, but there is no tape. There's no way to go back and listen. But I can tell you this, that ideology never shows up in my head. I don't know how it could possibly come out of my mouth. So I'm going to tell you that the words are likely what I said, but I want to read it to you the way I believe I said it. And that's this.
I don't know how it could come out of my mouth. What the hell do you mean you don't know how it could come out of your mouth? It's been coming out of your mouth for years. Folks, last year, Steve King endorsed a white nationalist candidate running for mayor of Toronto, as in Toronto, Canada. That was last year. The guy has aligned himself with white nationalists in Europe. Press play.
I said it. And that's this. White nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization. How did that language become offensive? Why did I sit in classes teaching me about the merits of our history and civilization? That's the end of the quote. Just to watch Western civilization become a derogatory term in political discourse today. That's what I believe happened. And it's 13 words, ironically, that's caused this firestorm. And again, I regret that we are in this place. I read all the rest of the resolutions that are here. Number 2, I reject the ideology. The statement's true, Mr. Clyburn. Number 3, same story. I reject the ideology that's noted in here, but your statement's true. As I read these so far down, number 4, number 5, all the way through all these resolutions, that are all the whereases that are here in this resolution, I agree with all of them. I agree.
I want y'all to imagine if I was a member of Congress. This is how I would have been behaving while Steve King was talking. He done? Oh, he not done? Okay. Y'all let me know when he done. Because all y'all hearing right now is a bunch of BS. Go ahead, press play.
With every word that you're putting in this, it's an honest and a direct resolution put together to address a subject that has been too long before the public dialogue in this country. And when I look down at the resolve, that's usually the meat of these, it says resolved that the House of Representatives once again rejects white nationalism and white supremacy as hateful expressions of intolerance that are contradictory to the values that define the people of the United States. Well, I agree with that. Just a couple of weeks ago, I stood on this floor with the Bible in my hand, and I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That Bible wasn't just a regular Bible picked up somewhere. That was the shirt pocket size leather Bible that my great uncle John Richardson carried in his shirt pocket for 3 years in the Civil War. I come from a family of abolitionists. Maybe I would have some artifacts from his cousin.
Abolitionist.
I come from a family of abolitionists. Can I help y'all out with something? I have absolutely no recollection, nor can I find the evidence anywhere where Steve King has been an ardent supporter of civil rights. I have no evidence of Steve King standing up against voter suppression. I have no evidence of Steve King condemning other racist hate speech coming from other Republicans. I have no evidence whatsoever of Steve King giving a damn about black people. But he came from a family of abolitionists. Press play.
Been killed in that conflict. This means something to me. The abolitionism that goes clear back into my family, and they paid a price with their lives to make sure that all men and now all women are created equal and were endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I absolutely believe in that. It is in my heart and my soul, and it's in my works. By their fruits you shall know them. But the New York Times has a different version of this.
Wow.
Let me go in my bag and get my apple. let me explain something to y'all. When somebody use the word fruits, you ever heard of bad fruit? Do y'all know what happens when you leave fruit out in the sun? It rots. This man ain't got no fruits. He has none of that. This is an apple. That's damn good. It ain't rotted. If this was a Steve King apple, this green apple will be black.
Ironically.
Yes, ironically. It will be rotten on the inside. Go ahead, play. He lying. Go ahead and press play.
I make a habit of attacking the president, as a matter of fact. And I look at this language that's here, this resolution, that the House of Representatives once again rejects white nationalism and white supremacy and hateful expressions of intolerance that are contradictory to the values that define the people of the United States. I agree with that language I've said. But I would add to it the language that I used on this floor in this very place last Friday afternoon when I said I would strengthen it by adding my previous statements, which not only correctly rejects white nationalism and white supremacy as evil ideologies, but also condemn anyone that supports this evil and bigoted ideology that saw in its ultimate expression the systematic murder of 6 million innocent Jewish lives. That's where I stand. That's what I believe. So I want to compliment the gentleman from South Carolina for bringing this resolution.
Now see, let me remind y'all again, Steve King wants to stand there and he wants to add the killing of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. It happened. But let me remind y'all again, that happened in Germany.
Yep.
Did you hear Steve King say a word about South Carolina, in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Georgia, in Texas, in Tennessee, in Florida, and Virginia? Did you hear him say anything about the Holocaust that took place on this soil? Did you hear Steve King talk about the Holocaust that continued after slavery? Mind y'all do know in August of this year, we'll commemorate the 400th anniversary of the first 20-odd people of African descent arriving in Virginia in August of 1619. Steve King didn't say jack about the black folks 92 years after the Great Compromise of 1877, who had to endure racism and bigotry. He didn't mention lynchings right there. He didn't mention any of that. He totally ignored that. And see, also, if you want to talk about the Holocaust in Germany, I got no issues with that. But you better bring up the Holocaust that took place in the Congo and the Holocaust that took place all over the African continent when people said we're going to rule this continent, steal its riches, and destroy its people. Well, it's amazing how none of that got brought up by Steve King. I wonder why. Y'all go ahead and keep the line going.
So I want to compliment the gentleman from South Carolina for bringing this resolution. And I've carefully studied every word in this resolution. And even though I'd add some more that are stronger language, I agree with the language in it. So I want to ask my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, let's vote for this resolution. I'm putting up a yes on the board here because what you say here is right and it's true and it's just. And so is what I have stated here on the floor of the House of Representatives. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now I yield back the balance of my time.
Now, I want y'all to go to my iPad, y'all. This is an article from Vox.com, October 18th, 2018. Steve King endorses a bona fide white supremacist for Toronto mayor. In the lead, it says Iowa Rep. Steve King has endorsed a candidate in the Toronto mayoral race. The candidate he's backing, a white genocide conspiracy theorist who was fired from a Canadian far-right website for appearing on a neo-Nazi podcast. This is what Steve King tweeted on October 16th. Faith Goldie, an excellent candidate for Toronto mayor, pro-rule of law, pro-make Canada safe again, pro-balanced budget, and best of all, pro-Western civilization and a fighter for our values. Faith Goldie will not be silenced. I'm saying all of that, y'all, because all you heard on that floor speech was a bunch of complete BS. You say judge you based upon your record and your fruits. Well, you have borne fruit from a poisonous tree. And you have poisoned the well of the U.S. House, which is why you now have Republicans who are calling on him to resign. Yesterday, Senator Mitt Romney of Utah said it is time for him to quit. Today, Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming, the third-ranking member of the GOP House leadership, says it's time for him to go. Even Congressman Mark Meadows of the extremely right-wing Republican Freedom Caucus condemn King. The reports that more Republicans are pressuring him to resign. Now, earlier today, I talked with Congressman Gregory Meeks of New York about King and this decision by the U.S. House. All right, Congressman Gregory Meeks, first off, just your thoughts on the decision by the House to punish Iowa Republican Steve King for his comments to the New York Times about white nationalism and white supremacy.
I think it was very appropriate to strip him of his committees. We don't need someone sitting on those committees who believes in that type of ideology. I think it was appropriate, the bill that was passed today, disapproving of those statements. And I think further, the third step that should be taken, he should be censored on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. I think that that is appropriate.
Here's what I find to be real interesting. All of a sudden, you have Republicans who just aghast at Congressman Steve King, yet these comments are not new. He has made these type of comments for a very long time. In fact, before the election in November, he endorsed a white nationalist in Canada. Not in America, in Canada. He is allying with white nationalists in Europe. Yet Senator Chuck Grassley endorsed him when he ran for re-election. Other Republicans endorsed him. They said nothing.
And that's why he needs to be held accountable. And that's why it is my belief that when you talk about censorship on the floor, it should be led by the Republican Party, because they have been those are the individuals that have been basically aiding and abetting him in the same manner that they've been abetting and aiding the President of the United States, who made similar kind of remarks. Then they should lead the censorship on the floor of the United States House of Representatives.
Yet you have Donald Trump, who says, "Oh, I haven't been following this." You have the chairwoman of the Republican Party, Ronna McDaniel, who said nothing. The reality is the party, the Republican Party, has given aid and comfort to these type of racists and bigots. And I'm not sitting here the one even all alone making that suggestion. Senator Tim Scott, Republican from South Carolina, wrote the op-ed in the Washington Post chastising his own party for these type of people.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that the number one person, the king of this philosophy, the one who is the racist in chief, he sits in the White House. When you heard his statements about Charlottesville and the good people on both sides, those of us from New York who have seen his actions when it came to the Central Park individuals, when they talk about the citizenship of Barack Obama, when you go back even before that in history and look at his real estate, with how he was redlining against black folks then, listen to his statements and what he calls Hispanics across the border and Mexicans. So him and Steve King are in the same boat. They support one another, and others that are aiding and abetting him are as guilty as they are. I mean, we on the eve of Dr. King's birthday, and we heard what Dr. King said about the silence of people, that they are just as bad as those individuals who make the statements that are stated. We need a loud voice come out from the Republicans, which we have not heard, except I did hear come from also Mitt Romney. I agree with Mitt Romney's statement also.
All right, folks, this here also was a letter that I received from Eugene Craig, who often appears on our shows as one of our panelists. A group of black Republicans released a letter to the Republican National Committee. Go to my iPad, please, Henry. This is what it said. We, the undersigned black Republicans, applaud the leadership of the Republican Conference of the House of Representatives for swift and decisive action against Congressman Steve King in the wake of his, it should be repugnant, words and actions. They go on also to say the many comments over several years are not representative of our party, our morals, and our values, and the dignity that is enshrined in the American Republic. We are a diverse nation. We are a nation of many races, religions, and cultures. The Republican Party was founded on the basis of an idea that all men are free and all men are created equal in the eyes of our divine creator. As I said, we go down here. Let me go down further. I'm trying to pull here so you can see all the folks who signed this letter. Having some issues here, but again, you have, let's see here, I'm going to go to this email here, Eugene Craig. You have Shannon Wright, Brandon Cooper, a number of folks, Sean Jackson out of Florida, Malik Boyd. We have Nick Buford, and some others, on Chris Metzler, Gianno Caldwell as well. And so let's talk about with our panel, Malik Abdul, Republican Communications Consultant, also Malik Boyd, CEO, Dushuri CBD Products, and Dr. Cleo Monago, social political analyst and activist. All right, folks. So let's talk about all the fun today with Steve King. And it's like all of a sudden Republicans have decided, wow, did he really say these things? But this is not new.
First off, Roland, congratulations. Very sincerely, because I believe that you are a part of this movement toward this unusual illumination of white supremacy as a problem. Because if you look at the whole media landscape, with the kind of depth and laser beam focus that you had on deconstructing this issue, it was not happening in the media. And there's people on this show who are in that letter who I believe you helped to make them take a look at themselves and come off and try to be more pro-black than usual in terms of coming together. Because you have talked, and both of us have talked on your show from some years back about how black Republicans had never come together as a collective to address the white supremacy in that party way before Steve King was even a thing. So congratulations, brother. I hope you realize the gravity of what you're doing here. But I also, at the risk of sounding cynical, have to say that I believe that the Republicans have stepped out against him, thinking strategically around upcoming elections and doing a bunch of CYA stuff. Because I want to reiterate that Steve King has not been operating in the dark. He's been operating in the light. as a white supremacist, and they haven't not said anything. Again, I think it's because of the likes of yourself and maybe a few others that this has come to light. And also, I want to say, which you kind of already said, that Steve looked like a schizophrenic fool during that talk that he had, and he was just CYA-ing, hoping that he wouldn't get the guillotine at the end of his talk, and he got the guillotine anyway, but it's the CYA move.
Only 20 folks have been censured, and so he's trying to avoid that. Should that happen? Should that be the next step?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, should.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to see what the from Kevin McCarthy to Liz Cheney to Tim Scott. Tim Scott actually started this. If you think about it, Tim Scott actually started this, and unfortunately for Tim Scott, you know, it's a blessing and a curse because he's in a position where he's kind of the Barack Obama in the sense of the Republican Party, is that he has to answer for everything that the Republican Party does.
No, take it back. He's not the Barack Obama of the Republican Party. No. He's not the Barack Obama of the Republican Party because Barack Obama was president. No, actually, he doesn't have to answer to everything.
But he's always asked about it.
But because here's why. The Republican Party is the same party that basically screwed Michael Steele when he was chairman of the Republican Party.
I mean, yeah, sure.
When they basically told Michael Steele, know your place, and your place is to sit down and shut up. We put you as a figurehead. But it's not even he has to answer to this. He should assume the responsibility.
Absolutely.
In the exact same way that Edward Brooke assumed the responsibility when he was the first black United States senator elected since Reconstruction to Massachusetts. He didn't shirk from it, and I believe, and I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again, and I text him, and hopefully he ain't changed his number, and I'm gonna hit him like, yo, why can't you hit a brother back? Because Senator Kamala Harris and Senator Cory Booker, they know how to text me back. I don't know what's up, Senator Tim Scott. But the thing there is, he should, if you're the only black United States senator who is Republican, you should say, oh, I'm going to be even more forceful, Republican Party. I'm going to call you out in every instance because this is also my party. And this, to me, is what he should be doing. So I don't think it's a curse.
But Roland,
I believe it is a blessing.
One of the reasons why many black people, and this is based on conversation, not just some kind of projection, join the Republican Party is to back off from issues of race and to talk more about economics, bootstraps, etc., and not focus on race like the Democratic Party does. And so the idea of talking about race confuses their agenda in terms of why they make that join.
Even though race and economics go together.
They do.
Go ahead.
Well, you're being
So
logical.
I hear you on that, but I'm going to talk about race as a black man, period. So, yes, we can talk about economics, but race and economics go together, and the policies have shown that they have been racial and have basically focused on pushing us down. And we got to be honest about that. Tim Scott.
So for the folks at home, is this a different Malik Boyd or is that you?
No, it's me.
I know that. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
No. My point is for the folks at home, because I'm social media, kind of like, did he just say Malik Boyd?
Yeah, he did.
Just so the two.
Oh, it's two Maliks.
Yeah, it's two Maliks.
So here's the thing, though. So when Eugene sent me that letter, the first thing I said to Eugene, and I applauded him for doing that, but I also said, look, we got to put more teeth in this because we're black men.
That's right.
And there's absolutely no reason why we should not come strong. Now, here's the point. Blacks on the Democratic side shouldn't be going after Tim. If Tim stands up, stand with him. Right. This is a black issue, right? So don't hit him about Republican, Dem, anything. Right. This is a black issue. Stand strong. Right. That we have an opportunity to grow on.
Which is why, like I said, when I saw the Washington Post piece, I sent him a text, left him a voicemail, and again, I think that's still his number. Well, I'm gonna check.
You got to invite him out to lunch first.
No. We texted and talked in the past. Right. Okay. So this was my first time.
But here's the bigger issue, right? We're talking about the fruit coming from the tree. The real question is, are we cutting the branches or are we cutting the roots? That's the bigger conversation.
Right. And that's my point. So when Steve King stands up and talks about, this is what I've done and what I've accomplished, and I'm like, I'm sorry, there ain't no evidence of that.
Steve King, this is the first time probably he's heard of the fact that he has abolitionism in his family. I mean, we know that that's not true. Many of the things he said over the years have been ridiculous. So again, I'm happy where the Republican Party is on this as far as its leadership. I think that there are multiple things that we could be doing to attract more people to the party. I'm having conversation with senators now about diversity within their offices. So if anybody's looking for a job, hit Malik up at Malik at blackgop.us. They're actually staffing on the Hill. But those are some of the things that we can start doing to, for instance, grow minority participation on the Hill. You know, these are things that we can take back to the community and say, well, you know what, we have actually something to work with. And so I'm having conversations with my home state senators of Mississippi to make sure that we're engaging in things that they can do to engage with the black community. So
now let's talk about this even further, because just so y'all can understand what's going on here. First of all, remember, we had Media Matters on the show, I believe it was Friday. Well, they reported that most of the newscasts, so this thing happened Thursday in the New York Times. It wasn't until about 9:30 p.m. that night did CNN and MSNBC really cover this story. Okay. We also know that based upon a service that analyzes shows, the Fox News primetime shows, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, have not mentioned Steve King at all since Thursday. But he also was a frequent guest on their shows. So this is no shock as well. But to understand, and then also, Media Matters reported on Monday that mainstream media spent 5 times as much on Congresswoman Tlaib calling Trump an MF than they did on Steve King's initial comments. 5 times as much coverage. So it's no surprise today that NBC News sent out an email from their Standards and Practices Division, which was reported in the Huffington Post. They sent out guidelines to all of its on-air people, NBC, also MSNBC, reporters, anchors, contributors, telling them not to call Steve King's comments racist. This is what their letter said. They could use the language, what many are calling racist. But they're saying you can't call it racist. Social media, when this story dropped, not having any of it, ripped NBC News. Then they issued a new guidance to reporters and anchors saying, quote, "We revised our guidance on Steve King's comments. It is fair to characterize King's comments as racist and point out that he has a history of racist comments, and the context can be shared that others hold that view as well."
But see the schizophrenia?
This is right. So you send a statement out.
yeah,
Flat out.
yeah,
Flat out. Can't use this language.
makes no sense.
Then all of a sudden, after you get criticized, and based upon additional reporting, they got lots of internal criticism. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Y'all can go ahead and use it, which I mean, like, which you know may also explain, because it's very interesting. You know, I've done a number of segments.
Right.
Actually, not a number. Recently on MSNBC, where I have been very clear and open about whiteness and white fear. It's no surprise that my bookings have dramatically dropped because I have been very clear and upfront about this. What NBC basically is saying is, oh yeah, y'all, let's dance around it. Let's dance around this whole issue of what he said. That email, that guideline is an abomination.
But we allowed that to happen. And so, and the reason why I say that is because I'll say black folk, and I'll tell you,
what to happen?
Allow media to constantly call us, you know, this is the shooter, deranged individual versus the troubled teen. We see that all the time. That didn't just start with Stephen King. That's been happening, right? So it's on us to address that. It's on us to support programs like yours and ensure that our eyes go in a different direction. So again, this is now a turning point for us. What are we going to do now that we've seen it for you know, some amazing reason? Republicans are now joining together to stamp this out. Now let's push the envelope together as a people. That's the only way we're going to move.
But see,
what
what you're dealing with here, Cleo, you are dealing with, and again, white media executives controlling the narrative. This is not just we're offering suggestions. No, this is them saying, do not say this. I can tell you, I spent 6 years at CNN. I don't recall ever someone telling me, in fact, no. I remember when I said on the air, I said anytime CNN books Donald Trump, we should run a crawl at the bottom that says for entertainment purposes only. And then I got an email from Ken Jouts, who was executive vice president, telling me don't criticize Donald Trump when he's coming on our network. And I said no. I'm like, because like you're not like to tell me what I can and cannot say. But this is literally a network, NBC, saying, no.
Don't say that.
Don't you dare.
Yeah.
You can't call it that. You can say, others are saying that's complete BS. Go ahead.
Well, the media, as we all know, I'm talking about so-called mainstream, which is code for white, media is very, very powerful. And because it's very, very powerful and it hypnotizes people, I think we need to be crystal clear about the white supremacist elephant in the room. The bottom line is that NBC, CNN, ABC, everybody else is in cahoots with the white supremacy agenda, which is why they are careful and schizophrenic and strategic around what people can say, but then when it gets exposed, they change back. Like I said on one of your shows, and more than one previously, there's racists who are shamed by being called racist, who will act like they're not racist because they want to be shamed, who are racist. So I just want to reiterate to the audience that when you watch that, they used to say back in the day, ABC stands for all but Caucasians or something. And NBC was nothing but Caucasians, and CNN was a Caucasian news network, and they had all kinds of ways of using that C for Caucasian and all of these different. Well, it's real, and we just saw evidence. But I have to close with this because I got in trouble for saying this once. I think even on your show, me and Lauren Burke were talking. Trump is the gift that keeps on giving. The culture that has arisen as a result of his being in the White House, because I can't even imagine before him getting into the White House, there had been an explicit conversation on the congressional floor about white supremacy being a problem. I don't think it's ever happened before. Am I right or wrong?
Well, it may have come up during the civil rights movement, but not to the extent that you had this conversation here. And again, Malik, go ahead.
Yeah, and I kind of disagree with that. I don't think that this is because of Donald Trump.
It is.
This is not because of Donald Trump.
It is.
Because before Donald Trump, there was the Tea Party. And so before the Tea Party, there probably was some element.
No. You had the Tea Party. You had the Tea Party. You had conversations. You had discussions.
And racism, showing up to rallies.
Not white supremacy.
But you literally have never had in modern a president sending out a tweet praising a Pat Buchanan column, which in itself was a white supremacist column. Dude, you haven't had that. You haven't had a president standing there and say no.
Yeah.
But you haven't. I'm talking about. Look, I only been on this earth 50 years.
I get
You ain't had a president say after Charlottesville, good folks on both sides. I mean, you have not had a president who literally had a speechwriter. I'm talking about modern times. A speechwriter who shared a panel with a white supremacist and tried to hide it. His top advisor, Stephen Miller. This man here was the hero of white supremacist Richard Spencer. So this is not normal. The number of people who have been fired, who got into the administration, then who got fired when he got exposed for racist writings and comments. We haven't seen this in a long time. That's all Trump. Go ahead.
But one more thing.
No, go ahead. No. Official point.
That right there is I absolutely agree with. But my point is that this idea of racism, whether it's white racism or white supremacy, I don't really draw a big distinction between the two of them.
No.
But we've had these elements.
Yes. No. We've had white supremacy and racism, but it went frankly underground. It was overt. We have not. It was covert. We have not had this very much overt, I don't give a damn. Doc, the day after the election, you had white kids walking up to Latino kids saying, y'all going back home.
Right.
Bruh, we have not seen that. That is Trump.
But go ahead, Malik.
So it's less about, I hear the Trump thing, and I think, he becomes a platform by which that travels. Brookings Institute talks about 2040, right? With whites being a permanent minority.
2043.
When that happens, you're talking about survival now. So you have a race saying we need to survive. That's a different conversation.
Oh, no, it's the one I've been having, but they're saying it right now. They ain't waiting to 2043.
Oh, I agree
Their
with
fear is right now because their fear is what we might do to them based on what they did to us.
Absolutely. So listen, you could take Trump out and put Big Bird in there. It was going to happen because of the circumstance and what's occurring. Now, African Americans have to be careful because everything that's going on right now, we are slowly dwindling as well. Our net family income has not raised since 2000.
No, I got you.
Right? So everybody's talking about survival. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We can tweet about it. We can do Facebook, but we better organize.
Yeah, but the thing for me, and this is, first of all of this is connected.
Agreed.
All this is connected. Steve King is connected to Barr and the Attorney General. It's connected to the U.S. Census decision in terms of what they want to put on there.
Good question.
What you just said, which I've been talking about since 2009, all of these things are connected. They are connected to white supremacy.
Right. Agreed.
They are connected to we trying to hold on to power. Trying to alter or add the citizenship question, the 2020 census, is designed because of 2043.
Absolutely.
Putting these young white hardcore conservatives on the federal bench is all tied to white supremacy, to maintaining power. When you begin to look, so all of these things we're talking about, they're all connected. They're all, and what I'm saying is, the Republican Party, as Congressman Meeks said, is going to have to deal with the reality of their voter suppression, of all of these different things, because they're all feeding into the same trough. Right. And that trough is, oh my God, we losing power. We see what's about to happen. And we've been ignoring them black people. We've been ignoring Latinos. And damn it, the numbers are growing. And the reality is, and the reason they're trying to rush right now with Steve King is because their deal is, the problem here is he ain't covert.
Right.
He's overt. Right. And it's like we got to somehow we got to just put you in a cocoon, and it's like, no, baby, if you're gonna deal with Steve King, it's a bunch of other people
bunch of others,
you got to deal with. All right, folks, I want to talk about what happened today on Capitol Hill, of course, the whole issue of the hearings for the Attorney General who Donald Trump is recommending to take the place of Jeff Sessions, of course. William Barr, who served under President Bush, has been nominated to be the next Attorney General of the United States. He served as AG for 2 years in the first Bush administration, President George H.W. Bush. Lots of questions today with regards to Bob Mueller and his probe, but also the issue of criminal justice came up. And here was Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey.
Do you believe now, 30, 40 years of mass incarceration, targeted disproportionately towards African Americans, harsher sentences, disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system, with the American Bar Association talking about once you've been incarcerated for even a low-level drug crime, there are 40,000 collateral consequences that impact your life. Jobs, Pell Grants, loans from banks. Do you think, just yes or no, that this system of mass incarceration has disproportionately benefited African American communities? Yes or no, sir?
I think the reduction in crime has since 1992, but I think that the heavy drug penalties, especially on crack and other things, have harmed the black community. The incarceration rates have harmed the black community.
And I would just conclude to my chairman and partner, thank you, sir, on this, because I'm really grateful for this bipartisan group, the Heritage Foundation. I've spoken at the AEI conference, just found such great partnership, but I worry about the highest law enforcement officer in the land and some of the language I still hear you using that goes against the data, and that you're going to be expected to oversee a justice system that you and I both know needs the faith and confidence of communities that has dramatically lost that confidence because of implicit racial bias. And the DOJ, and I'll give you a chance to respond, the DOJ itself has said, mandated implicit racial bias training, and I hope that's something that you will agree to do. But this is the thing I'll conclude on, is that we live on a planet Earth where you can tell the most about a nation by who they incarcerate. In Turkey, they incarcerate journalists. Thank God we don't do that here, even though they've been called the enemy of the people. In Russia, they incarcerate political opponents. I'm glad we don't do that, even though with chance of lock her up. But you go into the American criminal prisons, sir, and you see the most vulnerable people. You see over-stigmatized mentally ill people clogging our system. You see over-stigmatized addicted people clogging our system. You see a system where, as Brian Stevenson says, it treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. And you see disproportionately, overwhelmingly for drug crimes, African Americans and Latinos being incarcerated. The importance of your job, and I'll ask you this last question, because you haven't met with me yet, you've given that courtesy to others. Would you please meet with me in my office so you and I can have a heart-to-heart on the urgency, the cancer on the soul of our country's criminal justice system is the disproportionate impact of that system on those vulnerable communities, including women, over 80% of whom the women we incarcerate are survivors of sexual trauma. Can you and I sit down and have a longer conversation than these 10 minutes will allow on this issue?
I'd very much welcome that, Senator.
All right, then. Well, let's talk about it with Maisha Brayton, Director of the Criminal Justice Division, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Maisha, we're already hearing Democrats who are saying, look, this guy is experienced, he's professional, he's great, he's going to make a great AG. But the Lawyers Committee believes he should not be confirmed. Why?
There are very serious problems with Mr. Barr's record, and I really don't think that any of the senators today took the time to really dig into his record. There are more than enough statements out of his own mouth, out of his own pen, where he has made clear that he believes there are two choices in criminal justice. Either you build more prisons or you have more crimes. And that is not the type of person that we need leading the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice plays such a huge role in setting criminal justice policy across the country. Other state attorney generals follow DOJ's lead. So having someone at the helm who has been consistent during his 14 months as Attorney General, during his work with ALEC, the organization that was mentioned in Ava DuVernay's documentary 13th, that has been a proponent of three strikes laws, mandatory minimum sentences, privatization of prisons. That agenda was set by William Barr, and no one has taken the time to dig in on his record, and I think that's unfortunate. I think that does a disservice to the American people who are looking at not only civil rights organizations, but their senators to dig into that record and hold William Barr accountable for his own beliefs and his own policies.
What other issues should be raised by the Senate in these confirmation hearings?
I think the Senate needs to dig in on William Barr's fundamental belief that the answer to the criminal justice system is building more prisons. He is someone who is a proponent of the theory of incapacitation. He believes that you have to incapacitate individuals who commit crimes, and that incapacitation comes through longer sentences. Those longer sentences require the building of more prisons. That is fundamentally flawed. Evidence has demonstrated, research has demonstrated that that is flawed. There is no correlation between the length of sentences and deterrence of crime. There is no correlation between building more prisons, putting more money into the prison system, and actually improving public safety. No one has delved into this. William Barr has been very clear that he even questions the concept of first offenders. He has said on the record, he has said in writing, in the 24 recommendations for improving criminal justice, something that he doubled down on in his case for mass incarceration, that he believes that first-time offenders really aren't first-time offenders because they've probably had probation before, or they've probably committed crimes that they hadn't been caught for before. So he suggested that first-time offenders are actually hardened criminals. And this record has been consistent, not only when he was Attorney General, not only when he was working for ALEC, when he left the Department of Justice, but as recent as 2015 when he opposed the Sentencing Reform Corrections Act, and in 2018, when he basically gave a shout out to Jeff Sessions saying that he was doing an outstanding job as Attorney General. And I don't think the Senate has done a good job at all of digging in on those issues.
All right, hold tight 1 second. I'm going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this census ruling where basically the Commerce Secretary lied to Congress. No shock, he's working for a liar. And so we want to talk about what that actual decision means for black folks and the United States Census. That's next. Roland Martin Unfiltered, back in a moment.
The greater those who in their lives fought for life. Educator Stephen Henderson.
All right, folks, HBCU Giving Day is School of the Day. It's Florida Memorial University. If you want to support the university, go to fmuniv.edu, fmuniv.edu. And, of course, we encourage all Florida Memorial graduates to be sure to give back to their university. Okay, folks, now time for a word from one of our partners. Now, a lot of us, of course, are focused on getting ourselves healthy and well in this new season, 2019. Some folks want to do it for weight. Some want to do it to improve their golf game, like yours truly. Others want to do it just to feel better as well. And so, how do we get better? How do we improve our health? Well, one of the ways is actually through a cleanse. And of course, the folks at D Herbs Full Body Cleanse, they have partnered with us. I'm actually doing it right now. This is the third time I've done one of their cleanses. And you look at all the abuse that we do to our bodies, the food that we eat, processed food, fried foods, all of that. What this does is literally clean your system. All that toxic buildup that drags you down, that also could be dangerous for you later. This helps you feel better, also gives you more energy as well. Now, if you want to lose some of those stubborn pounds, you can do so through the full body cleanse. And so what I want you to do is go to dherbs.com, dherbs.com, and use the promo code Roland. Yes, Roland, for a discount when you check out. As I said, I started, last Monday, so this is day 9 of the cleanse. Down 12 pounds, but certainly it's all raw vegetables and fruits as well. And nuts. And so you can't have dairy, can't have meat, can't have all those things because it's literally cleansing your system. So we want you to go to dherbs.com and use the promo code Roland, or you can call 1-866-4-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS. And I don't know why they didn't do this here to the folks in control room. Do me a favor, because you know folks sitting walking around trying to punch these numbers in. 1-866-4-343 7, take the number down, 2, y'all got it? You taking it down, Cleo? What the hell are you writing?
I'm writing my mother. No, I am.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, 866-4-DHERBS. Promo code is Roland. Also tomorrow, I'll be talking with Dr. A.D. Dolphin, the brother who's the CEO of the company who developed this cleanse as well. So look forward to that conversation. All right, folks, let's talk about the United States Census. Guess what? The Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, is a liar. He doesn't lie just about his wealth. He also has lied about mandating them put this certain question on the United States Census. Now, it is extremely important because it decides so much of our lives, representation in Congress, but also when it comes to funding, where resources are applied. Now, the Trump administration, they want to put a question about citizenship on the census. Now, critics are concerned this is going to keep folks from participating and thus lowering the representation of marginalized communities, and will, of course, lead to resources going to wider communities versus those that are black and brown. Now, a number of states and social justice organizations, including Lawyers Committee, have sued the Trump administration to get the question removed. Well, today, a federal judge agreed with them and cited many instances where Wilbur Ross and other government officials have ignored the law in order to put that question on. The judge also found that Wilbur Ross lied to Congress about it. It's likely this case is going to go to the Supreme Court pretty quickly so that the census forms can be printed in time. Aisha, and I want to Pam jump in as well. I mean, this is always a constant battle between Republicans and Democrats because when you talk about representation, most states they set their district lines, and all their lines, congressional, but also state lines as well, based upon the United States Census. It's a battle over where people are because that comes down to money, it comes down to power.
That's exactly right. That's why the Lawyers Committee has been so deeply engaged in this litigation. Remains to be seen what will happen next. However, there are no throwaways on the civil rights agenda when it comes to this administration. The way districts are apportioned determine who is representing you in Congress. It determines the amount of black representation you have among your congressional representatives. It determines the funding that goes to your particular jurisdiction. And when people are afraid to answer the census form because they believe that there will be some type of legal repercussion or criminal justice, what certain people would like to happen. You have the Lawyers Committee, other civil rights organizations. You have the organization being operated by former Attorney General Holder, all focusing on congressional redistricting, because sleeping on congressional redistricting is basically how we got in the situation that we are in today.
Especially with the whole issue of local. That redistricting is closed-door conversations that happen depending on who's in charge at that time. And so we've got to be clear that we're handling the local politics as well as we're talking about the census.
Yeah, but Lee, the local politics are a result of the census.
No.
Because I'm gonna tell you, in Texas, normally when it comes to redistricting, it happens every 10 years around the census. What happened is when Republicans took control of the Texas legislature, it was Tom. He was had a cockroach business. He had an exterminating business. Tom DeLay. Tom DeLay said, "Oh no, hell no, we're gonna take advantage of power right now." They changed redistricting in mid-year. They didn't wait for the next 10 years. They didn't wait for the 10 years. They said, "No, we're gonna change it now." So then what happens is, if you're able to gerrymander the seats, the lines, hell, you can control what happens in the next 10 years because we control the process.
So let's take a look at PA, right? So you explained Texas. PA, it happened, but we also saw Dems and Republicans agree to the nonsense. So I mean, it's not a party thing.
Yeah, which is why I firmly believe the drawing of lines should be taken out of the hands of legislature and independent commissions. But what do you have right now in Michigan? You have Republicans who are trying to stop what the voters voted on. They're like, no, we're going to change what y'all did. Malik, then Cleo.
Yeah, well, to your last point about the voters changing, I said on this show before that this is the same thing that happened in D.C., where the D.C. Council actually overturned the wage tip initiative here in D.C.
Right.
So these type of things do happen, As far as what's going on with Wilbur, I'm not sure what his motivation is.
Lying.
Oh, well,
and trying to get the question on the census.
Yeah,
that's the motivation.
Yeah, but he may have. But we also, we also have to acknowledge that the judge also said that he didn't find any discriminatory intent in what he was doing.
His ass still lying. Cleo.
People often are blinded by white agendas, don't find intent. Just like when there's a cop that kills somebody black, his attorney keeps saying that wasn't the intent. Which works. When a cop kills a black person, one of the things their defender says is that wasn't the intent. So my point is that I'm not really impressed with the terminology about what somebody's intent is or is not. I watch what their behavior explains.
Well, I want to show you some behavior that's very easy to explain. This took place over the weekend in Asheville, the mall, North Carolina. A 51-year-old white man punched an 11-year-old black girl. This was being filmed. Look at this video. Cleo, you hadn't seen that?
No, I had not seen that.
The man was identified as David Stephen Bell, was later arrested and charged with assault on a female under 12 years old and assault on a female. And he was released hours later after posting bail. Police are investigating Bell. He could face up to 445 days in jail for the misdemeanor charges. These were just, it's like you decide to wade in the center of these young women and just cold cock a 12-year-old girl.
Well, I gotta say,
I saw the video.
I gotta say one more time that we should be thinking all spiritual sources for this, because that's not, I used to work in law enforcement in Los Angeles. That's not new behavior, Roland.
Right.
No.
That people have been smacking black kids and black people all over the place, but it was their word against theirs because people talked about intent. You know, that good old word again. And the white person who smacked somebody got off.
Maish, you want to make a comment?
Yes, I think that this is an example of something that is happening repeatedly. Black girls are not allowed to be girls. They're not seen as girls. So there is no effort to treat them like children, to protect them as children in the way that we all should. And we've seen that not only from this video, we've seen it most recently with the conversation surrounding R. Kelly. Black girls are threatened in a way that no other member of society are threatened,
Except for
and
black
we have
girls.
to address this.
Malik Boyd.
So as a father of two girls, I look at that and I go, Roland, I'd have missed the show today because I'd have still been locked up, point blank. And it becomes a clarion call to the men in the community, to your point, Maisha. We need to cover everybody.
That's right.
Black girls, black boys, the whole nine. At no point should any male swing on a female at any age, grandmom, aunt, auntie, whatever, it doesn't matter. More importantly, you know, the question is going to become, yes, we're going to go through this prosecutorial scenario, but what do we do as a community, especially that community, to protect those girls and in that community moving forward?
I'm just saying, I do recall when I was a teenager, I went shopping with my parents. It was my mom, my dad, and it was just me, just the three of us. Brothers and sisters were at home. And there was a grocery store, Kroger, and there was a drugstore right next door. And I was coming from the drugstore. My parents were in the grocery store. And so as I was walking to go into the grocery store, heard two white guys say, "We should go get that nigga." And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I, go inside. And so my parents were like in the meat section. And so I tell my dad and my mom what happened. My dad's like, say what?
Yeah.
Now, mind you, my dad is mild-mannered. My dad, he's not going to sit here. He's not a hothead or whatever. But if you mess with his family,
Right.
situation changes. Right. And so he said, let's go. And I was like, go where? He's like, let's go. My mom was like, oh my God, Reginald's like, he said, damn it, I don't want to hear nothing.
What are we talking about?
He turned to me and said, let's go. I was kind of like, well, I guess I ain't gonna be staying with mama, we gotta go.
Yeah.
So we walk out. And I'm sitting like, why the hell are we going? What are we doing? We walk into this drugstore. We're walking around, my dad see two white guys, that's them? No, they ain't them.
Right.
Then we go, he's like, is that them? I'm like, no, it's not them. So we two more. He's like, is that them? That's them. He walk up, he said, I didn't talk to two of y'all.
Yeah.
Tell them what you just told me.
Yeah.
So I did.
Yeah.
These two white guys like, no. We were not talking to your son. We were talking about somebody else. And my dad's like, so what you're telling me is you didn't say about my son, let's go get that nigga. And the look on his face, now, first of all, he's scared the hell out of me. And they were like, no. He's like, okay, fine. We walked off. And I'm walking behind like, first of all, I ain't gonna never mess with this Negro because he crazy.
Right.
Like they, him crazy.
Right.
But that was one of those situations. That, I can tell you right now how that would have been handled
But I respect the old
by my dad. Just letting you know.
I respect your father. I respect my father. My father named me Malik Lumumba Boy. Enough said. So,
well, for the folks who don't know Lumumba.
You want to do that? Patrice
first Prime Minister
Lumumba,
of the
El
Congo,
Haj Malik
who
El
helped
Shabazz,
them,
Malcolm X.
just for some folk who have no clue who Lumumba
Absolutely.
is,
And there's a lot who don't.
who the United States helped kill because he chose to get guns from the communists because America wouldn't give them guns. He said we got to protect ourselves. But there was a movie done on it, plus there was a book. I'm just saying, and then he was murdered. His body was he was decapitated, and they actually disposed of his body. Go ahead. Don't do Wikipedia. Go actually do the history.
There you go. Ask Roland, right? So, but here's the scenario. To your point, you talked about the phones. I think the phones are capturing what we've already experienced, but I think too many are on the phones. And that's been the problem too, right?
Right.
Because Dad wasn't going to go grab the phone.
Right.
He said, come on,
Look,
let's roll
I'm
out.
say this. I'm going to say this, and we got a lawyer present. I'm telling y'all, okay? I'm telling you right now because it's going to happen, okay? We have shown y'all a bunch of videos of crazy-ass white women and crazy-ass white men. I'm telling you this now because it's going to happen. One of these white folks going to end up dead. I'm telling y'all right now. If more of these white folks keep walking up to black people and punching them out and calling the cops and accosting them for no reason, I'm telling y'all, somebody white is going to end up dead. First of all, it's already happened. The white man in Seattle who cussed out and called a FedEx worker who's black the N-word. Homeboy cold-cocked the white boy, and the white boy died. He had major health issues, whatever, but he literally knocked the life out his ass. And I'm telling y'all, this is going to happen. Black people are not going to be as calm and quiet and just keep filming. Somebody white going to end up dead because they keep acting a fool accosting black people. I'm just letting y'all know so when it happens, y'all can say, Roland tried to tell you. I got to go right now, folks, so we're over time. Maisha, thanks a bunch. Malik, Cleo, thank you so very much as well. Don't forget to, folks, support Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We want you to support this show. Join our Bring the Funk fan club as well. That's critically important for us to be able to do what we do. Tomorrow, folks, I'm going to be at the Rock the Mic series for the folks at North Carolina Central in Raleigh. And so that's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to be broadcasting from there. And so I'm going to see y'all in Raleigh at the Duke Auditorium at 7 p.m. for my keynote speech. And so look forward to us laying down the law and speaking truth to power. Also, again, shout out to my frat brother, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will turn 90 years old today. And so thanks a bunch. I'll see you guys later. Holla! Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. Hey, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Tuesday, January 15, 2019. Today's the 90th birthday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Also, it is fitting today the U.S. House decided to condemn the racist, white supremacist comments of Congressman Steve King. The vote was 424 to 1. We'll explain to you, the one person who did not vote, what that means. It's about time y'all decided to call out the bigot. But that's not the worst thing that has happened to Steve King. Last night, Republicans stripped him of all of his committee assignments. So pretty much, he's walking around Congress with nothing to do. King again tried to explain himself. Yeah, it was pretty much another parody. Also, NBC News tells its reporters, anchors, and contributors not to call Steve King's comments racist. The backlash causes them to alter their stance. What the hell were they thinking? Also, I talked with New York Congressman Gregory Meeks about what more should be done to punish Steve King. And we also talked to him about the impact of the government shutdown. Black Republicans also released a letter calling out Republicans, saying it's time for them to step up when it comes to Steve King in their midst. We'll talk to one of them on the show as well. Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General appeared before the Senate today. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker pinned him down on the issue of criminal justice. We will show you that conversation, and also most of the confirmation hearing centered on protecting Robert Mueller. But we're interested in voting rights and civil rights. We'll have Maisha Brayton of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law tell us why the Senate should not confirm Barr as the next Attorney General. Also, folks, news out of Chicago regarding the sentencing for convicted murderer of the cop who killed Chicago police officer, former cop Jason Van Dyke, who killed Laquan McDonald. Why is the prosecutor trying to keep his sentence somewhat short? It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got